Hey everybody, back with another collection video. For this one we're going to be doing the N64. I know all my collection videos have been Nintendo related this year, with the exception of the original Xbox, which I did like back in the summer or something, but, yeah, but there are some classics missing from my collection, which I will be buying in the future, like I keep putting it off and stuff, and I always play these games anyway. I buy them to play, and as well as collect. Anyway, let's just get to it. First up, a classic. Star Fox 64, which is actually one of my favorite games of all time. I pretty much know this whole game by heart, like the layout of the levels, like what the enemies that pop out of where and shares, and it never gets old. I freaking love this game. Next we have Paper Mario. Now, most people consider the Thousand Year Door to be the best. I mean, that is a phenomenal game, but there's just something about this one that really stands out to me. This one is my favorite in the series. And despite the fact this game doesn't use memory cards, I rented this a few times from the Blockbuster. And so, I think it was like, God, like maybe 2003 or 2004, something like that. I bought it for like $15 at GameStop. You know, now it's like 10 times that price or something like that. I know it's not cheap, we'll put it that way. Now, at least now it's not. So I'm glad I have it. Well, I'm glad I got it when it was cheap, we'll put it that way. Before retro prices started, you know. Anyway, next we have Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. My favorite Kirby game in the franchise, because it's a very unique Kirby game. Like, you know, you can combine two elements together to make, like, or weapons, elements, whatever you want to call them, to make like a variety of different attacks and stuff. It's such a classic game. Well, maybe not a classic because it's only like 17 years old or something, but it's just a great game. Kirby's my favorite Nintendo IP too, by the way. And we have F-Zero X, one of, you know, Nintendo's franchises that's kind of gone cold, but, you know, hey, you never know, maybe we'll see one on the Switch or something. But this was another classic. And somebody wrote their name on it, which there's ways to get that off. I just haven't gotten around to it. Pokemon Stadium. God, I played so much of that game. And, oh, and I also have Pokemon Stadium 2. Super Smash Brothers. It's amazing that this game, can you believe that this came out almost 20 years ago? 99. And series has come a long way, but this one, it's still pretty fun to play. I mean, there's some unique features about this one. Like, for starters, when you electrocute your opponents, you can see their skeleton. They never did that in any of the other games. Maybe because when you do it to Samus, you can see her, one of my favorite weapons in this game was the bumper, where, because it's like, when you throw it at somebody, it would like ricochet, like ding, 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 or something like back and forth. And unfortunately, they took it out of Melee, and then they brought it back in Brawl, but it's not really the same. Next, we have Pokemon Snap, another classic. This game is fun, but it's one of those that, well, like most Pokemon games, you can only have one save on it, but. And not only that, but it's one of those games, like, once you kind of know where everything is, there's a marker on there or something, and once you know where everything is, it's not really the same the second time around, but, you know, I would love to see a sequel to this, or even just like an HD remaster or something, but, you know, a sequel would be better. It doesn't even have to be like, you know, because, you know, now there's almost 1,000 Pokemon, but even if they just did, like, based off of, like, Gold and Silver, because that would be, like, 250 something, but, next we have Tetrasphere, which still got a friggin' label on there, one on the back too. It's a very interesting, or more unique type of game of Tetris. So you play it on like a sphere that you have to rotate and stuff. It's actually really fun. Pilot Wing 64. I haven't played too much of that. I mean, I played a little bit, but not a lot. Now we got a whole slew of platformers here. First we have Chameleon Twist and Chameleon Twist 2, which. Yep, these were made by Sunsoft, so naturally they have great music. These games are very underrated, because you play as the Chameleon, which, as you can see on... Well, you can't really see him on the first one, but he looks weird in the first one. He looks more like Wooper from Pokemon. Yeah, I don't think he's on the cover, but in the second one he looks more like a lizard or a one, whatever. And you can actually pick out of 4 of them. There's 4 of them that you can pick out of. The only difference is the colors. And where was I? But basically, it's a platformer where you use your tongue for everything. Like you use it to like get around crevices and not sec. Never mind. Use it as like a pole vault. You can also. It's also how you attack. Use it to like basically. It sticks to enemies and then you suck them in and then you spit them out. So it's kind of like Yoshi in a way. This is definitely I would consider to be a hidden gem. Rocket Robot on Wheels. One of the first games I rented for the system, and I bought it like shortly after. And as you can see, it's got a red cartridge. This was made by, well, I think maybe it was just the artwork. I know it's the same art style as Sly Cooper, which was done by Sucker Punch. It doesn't say their name on this, but I know Sucker Punch was a part of this game. Like maybe it was just the artwork or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's kind of like Mario 64, but the difference is that in this you collect, like in Mario 64 you collect stars, and in this one you collect tickets. But and the more you get, the farther you can progress in the game. But in Mario 64, there's like a whole slew of a whole bunch of different worlds, and then there's like 5 or 6 stars for each of them. In this, there's only, I think it's 6 worlds. Well, 7 if you count like the main lobby area. And each one of them has like, I think a dozen tickets, give or take. So it's it's not like when you complete a mission, you can just you can get if you go to one of the worlds, you can get as many of the tickets as you want, and then you can just leave after. You don't really have an attack. Instead, he has like a tractor beam, which he'll use to pick up enemies and objects and throw them. And each world has a machine, which basically, or it says a machine where you find the parts scattered across the world. Each one does something different. Like for example, the first world you go to is a like a carnival, and the machine is like part of this giant T-Rex that you go inside of. This mechanical T-Rex, obviously, but I think there was something else I wanted to mention about this game. Oh yeah, there's a variety of vehicles for each world, and I think my favorite worlds have to be Paint Misbehavin', which is like ancient Rome, and then you mess around with like art and paint and stuff, and the other one is, oh, what the hell is it called? Food Fright, which is basically like a Halloween world. And a funny thing, if you ever watched the episode of SpongeBob, I think it's Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy number 4, when SpongeBob takes the belt and he keeps shrinking everyone, and the sound it makes in that every time he shrinks someone, when it's like, that sound is in this game. So I'm pretty sure that's where it came from. Excuse me. Next we have Glover, which is another one of those platformers that kind of just came and went, like a failed mascot, if you will. But I don't know, I really enjoyed this game. I kind of got a soft spot in my heart for this game. It's a lot of fun. It's hard, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, you play as a glove, and you have to bring a ball to the end of each stage. It's a pretty unique game. And we have Bomberman 64, probably one of the best ones in the series, because there's, yeah, well, it's a great game. We'll just leave it at that. Ms. Pac-Man and Maze Madness. It's basically a cross between, like, the original Pac-Man arcade-style games and a platformer. The cat's staring at me. I remember seeing a commercial for this, and I was like, oh my god, I want to play that or something. So I rented it, and then years later I played it. I love the music in this game. It's so good. Like, one of the songs, I think it's called Cleopatra. It's one of the first stages. I remember I was playing it one day before I had to go to work, and I had that song stuck in my head the whole day. Or that tune, theme, whatever you want to call it. So it's just not really, yeah. Mega Man 64, which is just the N64 version of Mega Man Legends, because that was the thing with Nintendo. It put 64 at the end of a lot of their 64 games, but that's a classic. I know a lot of people want to see Mega Man Legends 3, Capcom. Anyway, Rampage World Tour, another classic. Love the music in this game. It's a lot of fun. Very fun game. Gauntlet Legends, God. My siblings and I dumped so many hours into this game. I remember playing the original in the arcade. Well, the original version of this, not like the old. I mean, I played the original arcade one, but then Gauntlet Legends or whatever you called it, this in the arcade I've played. And then, when it was ported to the home consoles. Another a classic rare title, Jet Force Gemini, and of course because N64 cartridges don't have N labels, somebody wrote it on there, which I'll probably wipe that off or something. Because when I have these on display, I don't care. I don't mind having to think about like, oh, okay, this is this game with at least with the N64. Yeah. Anyway, but this was a great game. It's kind of like a 50s style sci-fi. It's a sci-fi platform, which looks like it's like a sci-fi 50s movie or something. I know I just said sci-fi like 6 times, but it's a great game. It feels very underrated. The versus mode, the multiplayer, and that's a lot of fun too. It's on the Rare Replay collection for the Xbox One as well. Duke Nukem 0 Hour, another game that my siblings and I played the crap out of. It's such a fun game. And I think I mentioned this in my pickups video with this game, but I'll say it again anyway. There's a funny glitch in this game where if, in the multiplayer, if somebody's playing as a pig cop, you can jump on them and they'll squish. It's hilarious. Next we have Turok Rage Wars, which is basically just, it was Turok, but it was literally just deathmatch. I mean, there's like, it's like a campaign is more of, basically it's like a slew of all the different deathmatch modes or something. It's kind of hard to explain, but this was a great game. Unfortunately, it's hard to go back and play because you have to use the C buttons to move and then the analog stick to aim, so, it's hard to go back to that. I dumped so many hours into that game, too, because I unlocked, like, pretty much all the characters and alternate skins and stuff. Well, not all the alternate skins, but whatever. It's like Excite Bike 64 is another classic. Exin. Like a lot of these first-person perspective games, because I don't know if I'd call this a first-person shooter, because it's 2 of the characters use like melee, but whatever. But I like a lot of those games. This was originally on PC, and then it was ported to the home console, but I remember my brother had the N64, and I think it was one of the first games he bought, actually, and actually I'm pretty sure he still has it, but we played that a lot, because you can do a co-op mode. Vigilante 8, which is basically a Twisted Metal clone, but it takes place in the 70s. Very fun game, and it's also on the PlayStation, the original PlayStation. That's the thing, it's basically like, I don't know how I'd put this, like, whichever you would prefer to see, basically, but, like, one has something that the other doesn't, we'll put it that way. See, the PlayStation version has the cutscenes, like, obviously the video cinematics. The N64 doesn't have that because it's a cartridge, but it has 4-player multiplayer, which is kind of cool. There's another rare title, Blast Core, which has like a price tag or something on it. It's a pretty fun game. Not great, in my opinion, but it's fun. Armorines, which I think this is kind of like Turok. I bought it on kind of like a whim. I never got around to playing it. WWF No Mercy, another game that I dumped a ton of time into. I loved these old wrestling, N64 wrestling games. They were so much fun. This one is still fun to play, too. It's such a classic. We have Army Men, Sarge as Heroes. These were a lot of fun games. These, I know I keep saying that a lot, but that's what it is. You play as like little army men and go on adventures in like a big world, so to speak. Yeah, but it's another classic. I need to play that again. I've been meaning to. Actually, a lot of these games I've been meaning to play. Iggy's Wrecking Balls. I remember renting this, and then I just bought it because I was like, what the hell? I found it cheap, so it's almost like a cross between a racing game and a platform. It's weird. I don't know, it's hard to explain. Then we have Knife Edge Nose Gunner. I bought this on a whim. It's another rail shooter game where you play as like a helicopter. It's not bad. Clay Fighter 63 1/4, or 63 1/3, excuse me. Now, of course, the Clay Fighter games were on the Super Nintendo, and I believe the Sega Genesis as well. So this was like a, a 5th gen version. They called it 63 and a third to be funny rather than calling it Clay Fighter 64. And you could also do fatalities in this, which they called them Claytalities. And there was, a bunch of the classic characters are back, like Badman Mr. Frosty, I believe that was his name. And there's a couple of new characters, including Earthworm Jim and Booger Man, which were like, 90s platformer characters. And there was also another version of this, which I think it's called Director's Sculpt or something like that, where there's 3 additional characters. However, that version, I'm pretty sure it was exclusive to Blockbuster, like you could only rent it, so naturally now that version is rare and expensive. You can find this one cheap, but the Director's Sculpt, or whatever it's called, with the other characters is more expensive. It's pretty much like the same story as, the hell's it called? Flintstones Surprise the Dinosaurs Peak on the NES. Excuse me, my throat's drying up. Next we have Lego Racers. It's a racing game with Legos. You can make characters and vehicles and stuff out of Legos for your racer. It's pretty good. I haven't played too much of it, despite the fact that I do love Legos, but yeah. Well, that sounds good. Anyhow. We got Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, another N64 classic. Based off of the book, which, it takes place in between episodes 5 and 6. I always get that mixed up, but yeah, it was originally a book, and obviously it would have been a movie, but because it takes place in between episodes 5 and 6, everyone would have been too old. But this is, like I said, it's definitely another classic. I like how it goes from, like, on foot to vehicle levels. And there's actually a funny trick you can do in this game, where you can, in the levels where you're on foot, like Echo Base, for example, you can put in, like, a code, and then you can take control of one of the enemies, like, say, a snowtrooper, and then you can control them with the D-pad. And then you just, like, use that to make them move, and you push down to make them shoot. So, if you wanted to, you have a friend with you, you can turn it into a 2-player game, but you have to share the same controller. It's just an interesting little Easter egg. Then we have Star Wars Rogue Squadron. I love space shooter games, so obviously growing up loving Star Wars, and I love this game. Yeah. We have... What the hell is that? Mace, the Dark Age. Sorry, I couldn't read this bottom text. This is a medieval fighting game. I remember my brother rented it, and I actually really liked it a lot. In fact, if you watched my videos on where I talked about video games I tried to make as a kid, I tried to make a game like this too, like a medieval fighting game. And I saw it like for like $5, and I was like, ooh. Unfortunately, it doesn't hold up very well. It's very clunky, like the fighting and everything, but the music is awesome. Speaking of games that don't really, yeah. South Park, I know everyone, I don't want to say everyone hates this game, it just gets, a lot of negative publicity and stuff. I think it's okay. I don't think it's bad, but it's not great, so to speak. Now this one is bad. Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, because... Power Rangers, where there's been so many different reimaginations of it, or whatever you want to call it. Not, on top of the fact that it originated in Japan under a completely different name. But this was, as for, the TV series, this was one that I did kind of enjoy. So when I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a game of it. I bought it on a whim, not knowing, the negative publicity and all the reviews and stuff, and, yeah, it's awful. Virtual Chess 64, it's, Virtual Chess on the N64, it's, okay, I'm not too great at chess, but whatever. We have Micro Machines 64 Turbo, it's a Micro Machines racing game. What more can I say? A lot of fun, though. Last one, Rugrats in Paris the movie. Rugrats was my favorite Nicktoon growing up in the 90s, and... excuse me. I used to have the movie on VHS. I think I might still have it. I'm not positive, but I liked the movie back in the day, and I remember I rented this just for like the hell of it because I love Rugrats and I like the movie. So because the game has like a lot of like fun mini games and stuff. That was the thing. I had a lot of fun with the game. So when I saw it for like $5 or something, I was like, I might as well pick it up. So yeah. That's my N64 collection. Like I said, there's some titles, for example, GoldenEye, which, I need to add those to the collection at some point. But until next time, thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.